Good morning and welcome to the December 22nd edition of the Gold, Goats, and Guns Market Report. This will be the, this is like the second to last one for the year because there will not be one on Wednesday since it's Christmas. And, all right, even I don't work on Christmas, at least much. So Merry Christmas to everybody. We're going to get into that. We're going to get into a couple other things. I'm going to go right to it this morning because I've got, as always, I think it's best to keep my introduction short. So I hope you're all prepared, and I hope you all are looking forward to spending time with your families and not spending time with me, because you should be spending time with your families. All right, let's get this over and done with. Okay, so I want to talk about the changes in the gas market that happened in the last couple of days. I think it's really funny that as of, I think, Wednesday, the CEO of Naftogaz, the Ukrainian state gas company, was saying, there's no way we're ever going to get a deal together between now and the end of the year. It's not going to happen. We're talking about the gas transit contract that's ending, or was going to end on, next Thursday, or next Tuesday, a week from Tuesday. Yeah. That's New Year's Eve. And I just found that really funny. And then by, Thursday or Friday, they had a deal. And not only did they have a deal, but they had an extension of the current deal and then a 5-year deal after that. And that's all ultimately what we're dealing with here. There's no doubt that this deal is going to get signed. I'm sure that the Russians caved a little bit on a few things in order to get it done, because the United States has passed this year's NDAA with the sanctions from hell bill, or rider associated with it, thinking that Lindsey Graham somehow thinks that he can convince everybody that he's actually a man by putting this in the bill. It's pretty funny and it's pretty sad. This is at the same time that the United States admitted earlier in the week that they really can't stop Nord Stream 2 from being completed. All they can do now is annoy people. And so the sanctions bill has stopped Allseas, the Swiss pipeline company, bunch of freaking cowards, from going forward because they don't want to get their assets seized, which is literally a declaration of war at this point on the part of the United States versus its European allies. To sanction perfectly legitimate commercial business amongst allies, which is what this bill does, sets not just a bad precedent. It says all the wrong things about our relations. And I tried to capture that in yesterday's blog post, and it's really hard to make abundantly clear, but about all the ramifications of this. But understand that all we're doing now is ensuring that Europe becomes enamored of Russia and China, who are not going to treat them like this. As we fall farther and farther off the deep end, we're now trying to browbeat everybody into staying on our side, and it's not going to work. You can't bully people in this way and expect it to work. Ted Cruz has lost his mind and honestly should be recalled for this bill. So should Lindsey Graham. If Trump should be impeached, he should be impeached for passing this bill. Okay? Like, the House passed the weakest articles of impeachment against Trump they possibly could have, because, oh my God, to get him on anything else that he's done wrong would implicate all of them, because they're all just as guilty as he is of the same things, these foreign policy excesses, these foreign policy crimes, all of the things that have gone on. Every one of these people is not fit to serve in their office that they've been elected to. And we have to come to terms with the fact that politics is not going to solve this. And this is going to continue to degrade until they're all removed. Honestly, someone should primary out Ted Cruz. This is unacceptable. And it's not just unacceptable because, it hits my my recommended portfolio, and I want to see Nord Stream 2 finished and all this. No, it has everything to do with the fact you do not treat your allies this way, as if they're wayward children. And one of the points I made yesterday in my article was that Trump uses NATO funding as some cover for what he actually wants to do, which is to continue to subjugate Europe and occupy Europe. saying, well, if we're paying for your defense from Russia, and then why are you buying gas from them? Okay, Don, well, you're not defending Europe from Russia. Only the United States and its satraps in Eastern Europe are making that argument. The leadership of the European Union is making the argument that NATO is now redundant and you should maybe leave Germany, and they should let them build their own army and have their own defense force, and that if NATO has a future, it should be as a differently purposed organization. And this is what Emmanuel Macron is arguing for. And this is one of the few times you will hear me say that I agree with Macron in that respect, that NATO's current mission is brain dead and useless. NATO should be disbanded. We should not morph it into a global police force to stop terrorism, when most of the terrorist shitbags that are running around the world are being paid by us and the French and the British and everybody, and all the same. It's like, it's ridiculous. It's obvious. It's an obvious bait and switch. So Putin coming to Berlin to the Normandy meeting a couple weeks ago, offering Zelensky right up front a 25% discount on Ukrainian domestically consumed gas from Gazprom, to say, look, let's get a deal done. There's nothing really stopping us here. Drop the claims that the European courts have given Naftogaz against Gazprom, because we're not going to pay them. And we'll sign a long deal that'll be worth more to you in the long run anyway. And to the Ukrainian people, that'll be worth a hell of a lot more than $12 billion, which is what it comes down to. And that deal came together in like 24 hours. And everybody said it couldn't be done. Of course it could be done. So that's where we are. And then Nord Stream 2 is still going to get completed because Gazprom will just complete the pipeline itself. And with the gas transit contract in place, they'll be able to deliver all the contracted gas volumes into Europe via Ukraine. See, the whole play with delaying Nord Stream 2 was to try and keep a deal from coming together between Russia and Ukraine, and then Gazprom would be in default because it wouldn't be able to, on its contracts, wouldn't be able to deliver the contracted amount of gas. Therefore, it would be default of its contracts, and then we could demonize Russia even more, and then we could undermine it with the EU, and we could try and turn public opinion against them, and the whole nine yards, and all of this crazy stuff. In the middle of winter, we're literally trying to freeze the people of Europe. This is who we've morphed into as a society. This is who our leadership is. And we turn a blind eye to it. And we all re-elect people like Ted Cruz for literally trying to freeze the people of Europe because we want to sell some LNG in Europe, not the dirty Russians. And we all know who's standing behind this policy. AIPAC. And we all know what's going on here. And this is what's happening. And it's disgusting, and it's vile, and it needs to end. And Putin cutting this deal undercuts Ted Cruz in a way that is, and Trump, and Graham, and Bannon, and Bolton, and Fiona Hill, and all of these literal traitors to the United States. The United States, we are not improved by this as people. The fracking industry is a boondoggle that's going to bankrupt millions of people in the United States when it all collapses. It's a Ponzi scheme. Continuing to try and force U.S. liquefied natural gas onto the rest of the world in order to continue to support this boondoggle is only going to bankrupt the rest of the world in the process. It's wasted capital. But somehow we think that we're gonna force this round peg into the square hole and make everybody submit. It's not going to work. Europe doesn't want this. Russia doesn't want it. China doesn't want it. The Middle East doesn't want it. The only people who want it are the United States and Israel. Turkey's getting off the reservation. Everyone's done. The whole of Europe is dying for Russian gas at the prices that Putin's offering it to them. Speaking of somebody who wants Russian gas, let's talk about Italy. Now, with the globalist group that's in charge now, M5S, as led by Luigi Di Maio and the Democrats in Italy, nothing is going to change, right? They'll Conte will talk a good game about, wanting pipelines, but he wants pipelines coming in from Azerbaijan and from Israel and from Turkmenistan, but not from Russia. Meanwhile, Salvini's like, I don't care. I'll take whatever gas comes in, and it's the cheapest for Italy. But what's interesting here is that there's two things happening in Italy. Italy's back on the menu because of two things. One, a completely and utterly unreported thing that happened earlier in the month that I didn't see until I was looking at some other stuff relative to the second point I'm about to talk about, which is the potential for a referendum and a new election in Italy in early 2020, and embedded in a Bloomberg article. And that was a reference to the fact that Five Star lost 3 senators in defections. Note in the Bloomberg article, they didn't say who they defected to. The League and Salvini. I had to find that out from a different source. I went to Bing to try and get that information, and Bing linked to one weird, hard right-wing blog that makes Breitbart look like the Washington Post, and they had already taken the article down, so I couldn't get it from there. I had to then go to DuckDuckGo to get the actual information, about 4 or 5 articles from small European press houses, because none of it wasn't covered in Die Welt, it wasn't covered in the Sun, it wasn't covered in the Standard, it wasn't covered in French press, it wasn't covered in the American press at all. 3 defections from Five Star to the League in the Senate. Big deal. Five Star's polling now between 16 and 18% versus 18 to 20%. Was as high as 20 to 22% when they formed a new coalition with PD, with the Democrats. Now it's down to 16, 18%. They're going to fall through the 16% chasm on this next election go around, and they're going to be extinct within 3 years. Because they're, as a protest vote, they're over. They're done. When you look at what's happening to the polling in Italy, it's very, very obvious. The League is polling between 32 and 34%. The Brothers of Italy, which is the harder right version of all of these people, is now polling at 11%. And they have never significantly polled above 5 to 6% in their entire history. And they have now doubled in the last 6 months. So what's going to happen is, if there's an election in Italy over this referendum, because what's going on now is that they're trying to shrink the size of the parliament from like 600 senators from about 1,000 members of the House and Senate to around 600 or 550 or something like that. Trying to just shrink the number of people on the payroll in order to cut costs, in order to that's fine. We have fewer people working for government. That means that there's fewer senators. It means all their staff gets cut and all their discretionary budgets get cut. It's actually a really good thing. This is one of the few things that Five Stars been championing that is good. But of course, the people who are about to lose their jobs, they filed a petition to say, hey, we don't want to lose our jobs, and therefore it's got to go to a public referendum. And that could actually spark a collapse of the coalition. If enough members of Parliament, or the House and Senate, decide that they're going to lose of the referendum, then they'll just cut the government. They'll just cut the referendum out from underneath. They'll undercut the referendum, and collapse the government, go for new elections, at which point Lega and the Brothers of Italy will take over. And then everybody's ousted. And we've already got, and since they've been out of power, multiple people, I've now read multiple news articles from prominent members of the League talking about leaving the euro again. Now that they're no longer playing electoral politics and pussyfooting around Five Star as their only path to victory. And now that we've had 2 years of more betrayal and palace intrigue guided by Brussels, we're going to see Italy back on the table once Salvini takes power again. Which he will sometime in 2020. And it could happen really quickly. So. And at the end of the day, that's where we are. And then the third talking point is just a reference to the Marx Brothers because, well, it's the Marx Brothers. So if you guys know what I'm talking about. Do you know the scene from, I think it's Stuck Soup? Or Night at the Opera, where they're talking about where Marco and where Chico and Groucho are going over the contract, and they keep tearing up pieces of the contract. What was that? Oh, that was the sanity clause, and they're talking about Christmas in this. It was really funny. So I don't really have anything else to say about that. And of course, Merry Christmas to all of you, because not happy holidays, not have a good holiday, not the Merry freaking Christmas. Get over it, move on. Next week, we'll say Happy New Year. And then we'll go on to the next holiday, and we'll call it by its name. And Merry Christmas. And that's that. All right. Just Merry Christmas. All right. Gold. Bottoming or about to fall out. This week was better in gold. But notice, again, how we talked about this on Wednesday, how tight the volatility is. And it's really crazy how little volatility there is in gold. We did not get a close above this 1484 level, but I think we closed right around 1480. So again, constructive, whereas continuing to plumb the top of this range. It's now 6 weeks in length. Are we going to go for 7? It's going to be a short trading week, low volume. There's always opportunity for shenanigans. Or not. We'll see. Big difference between, Christmas Eve this year and Christmas Eve last year, because Trump got the memo that the repo markets are a mess and dollar liquidity is bad and you better cut a trade deal with China and stop this nonsense now. So there we are. You can see how high how low the volatility is. Look at the percentages. We're, as a good rule, if we're anywhere close to normal volatility, these two numbers will sum to somewhere close to 100%. And when we're under the volatility, they'll be way above 100%. And when they're higher than 100, when it's really high volatility, they'll be nowhere close to 100%. So this is a really good marker, that the sum of these two numbers here is a good marker as to the level of volatility that we're dealing with, either high or low. Okay. And big deal. So yeah, and December so far is a pretty boring month that shows no strength whatsoever after this breakdown in November. So from a longer term technical perspective, gold is still weak. But are we bottoming? Are we going to move higher? We still need, as far as I'm concerned, we still need to move above 15.15 to even get interesting here. So gold's pretty boring. Bitcoin. Are we getting now, since 7,500 proved to be first support, then failed resistance, and then first failed support, then resistance. Now we're trading between 6,500 and 7,500. And now we've got a double bottom at 6,500. Is this new support? I don't know. But this is where we are. This is where we need to close above this week in order to create a 2-bar reversal. Pretty straightforward technical analysis. You've got a downtrend here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks. This is your first potential for a reversal bar. We did not close above this, but a $500 move in Bitcoin, which is very possible. Once we clear this high, going from here to here, probably another 60% probability. So it's not a very high probability of this happening, but it's possible, and could easily be possible with all the professional traders out of the market for the week. So as they're all home for Christmas. So let's watch that. I don't have, these are all the charts I have this week. I don't have a tremendous number. I went looking at all of our standard, all the interesting charts that we've been, our kind of our standard haunt. And I went outside of that, and I couldn't really find anything that didn't already say what these charts say, and what we have been saying for weeks on end now, which is that the European bond markets are all sitting right at the breakout level or breakdown level in terms of yield. Right, French, Italian, German bonds, all looking very, very dangerously weak coming into this last week of the month. It's something to look forward to. It's something to look to look at when we come to month end. We will visit them on next Sunday. But just watch, for example, watch the German 10-year for a move above negative 0.23%, right? Watch the French 10-year for a move above right around 100 basis points or 0.1%, okay? Those are what's happening there. I didn't need to show those today because I already basically showed you those points on Wednesday. And I didn't want to belabor the point and waste everybody's time this morning. So that's that. So the Dow and the DAX and the FTSE are all breaking higher. The FTSE and the DAX have not cleared major resistance. Again, watch the DAX to see if we got to close. Again, we'll cover all this next Sunday. I'll go over all these charts. Better to do them all as one big report next weekend. As we come into the monthly and yearly close, we'll do a little extra time and go over some of these charts to see how we close on Tuesday, a week from Tuesday. So we'll look at the DAX. We continue to watch the DAX to see if it breaks above the 2018 high. Continue to watch the FTSE to see if it breaks through the 7,500 area and moves higher now that we've got the withdrawal agreement passing through Parliament. Okay, and at the same time, watch the Dow Jones as Trump will likely announce some kind of trade deal with China, and that will probably shoot the Dow up towards 29 grand, especially if there's any movement at all politically to the downside in Europe. But like if there's any kind of sanctions put on the United States for what it's trying to do over Nord Stream or something along those lines, I don't think that's going to happen. I think Europe's going to roll over, but if I were Europe, I would embargo immediately all U.S. LNG for the next 6 months. Europe doesn't need it anyway. It would be a symbolic gesture. A lot of that LNG is not even going to make it into the European market because with the gas contract coming through, storage units full. I don't normally. I wouldn't. I would say no. Just keep trading with them. Just keep making them feel bad. But at the end of the day, making the symbolic gesture because they're not going to be doing much trading anyway. Making the symbolic gesture and putting the screws to Poland for acting the way they have wouldn't be a bad. I mean, again, this is not the libertarian in me talking. This is not the anarchist in me talking. This is the power politics player in me talking. This is my Kylo Ren moment. Oh no, put the screws to them. Now, and if you haven't yet, go see The Rise of Skywalker. I really enjoyed it. I'm going to go see it again this afternoon. We'll talk about it tomorrow night on the live stream. Yes, there will be a live stream tomorrow night. I know I haven't done one for like 2 weeks, and I am going to write my review sometime tomorrow. But I really did enjoy it. I'm not completely settled on it, but I really did enjoy it. And I think that it does a fine job of capturing the chaotic times that we're in and the complete abject breakdown of society that we're in as plot, and then the right, and then it creates the right story for the heroes. And there are many heroes in this story for how they respond to that crisis. And I think it works relatively well. Not relatively well. I think it works really, really well. I'll know more this afternoon after I've watched it again. But for this generation, this was the Star Wars necessary for this generation, like it or not. So, all right, you guys take care. You have a great afternoon. You have a great Christmas. Please enjoy your time with your families and your friends and everybody else. And we will talk next Sunday. You be well. You keep your stick on the ice.